This is the greatest training course ever created. It's fun, it's funny, it's interesting, it's engaging, it's exciting. There's interactivity and feedback and callbacks and checkbacks, and it covers every audience and every knowledge gap and every checkbox on good old Bloom's taxonomy. It's absolutely perfect. And nobody in their right mind will ever want to take it. If you missed my vision video, hi, I'm Joe. Thanks for stopping by. I wanted to put together this blog that's basically kind of a design blog for instructional designers, because we don't really get to talk about the visual and production nuances all that much, and I've got 15 years of doing that, plus 10 years of marketing and 8 years of doing training. So I figured maybe I have something valuable to bring to this crazy little world of ours. So alas, training is blank is born. So welcome. Thank you. Of course, my first post was going to be on the big picture. Trust me, I have a lot of plans for the nitty gritty, but I figured it made sense to share why I feel it's important a little bit. So with that being said, today training is composed. Most learners don't know the practices that we live by. They're not familiar with Mager or Kirkpatrick or Bloom's taxonomy or any of that. When they see an interaction, they probably aren't really thinking about all the ways that this could be reinforcing learning. They're just saying, I gotta do this so I can get through the training. I've never had someone come to me and say, thank you for converting this long course to microlearning. That's not a thing. Having somebody thank me for any training is not really a thing. But anyway, you, the designer, have to treat their experience as not just how many learning fundamentals did you employ, but also was the presentation of those something that made learners care and stick around. So I believe that a learner's ability to absorb content is never going to be higher than their desire to listen to it. I've never seen someone who was bored in a training do better than someone with equal knowledge that was energized and excited through it. So as instructional designers, we try to prevent that boredom or fatigue with things like learning paths, interactions, gamification, microlearning. There's tons of materials and books out there. But the audio-visual component plays a big role in this as well. Why would nobody ever take this course? It looks boring. There's no engagement in the viewing experience, even if that engagement exists in the words on the page. Here's the thing, training is never just content. It's a composition that blends content and audience, and in those are smaller harmonies and melodies that create the full learning experience. If one of those is off, the whole composition fails. So here's an easy example. You probably wouldn't train sales teams on the same thing you train technical teams. Even in the early stages of training, like a product intro. I work in application training. Our developers who are dealing with code and databases, they don't care about how many awards we've won. They don't care about the marketing spin. They care about architecture and product modeling. And all of these are topics that could work in a product intro, award, marketing spin, product model, architecture. These exist. They could exist in a product intro. But if I showed my sales guys a data model, they will leave. They should leave. I've set them up for an uncomfortable experience because they don't need that content, and they know that. And that could gather, they could gather from that maybe we as trainers don't know that they don't need that. So what else don't we know about their needs? That same idea of an uncomfortable experience can apply to with visuals too, though. How you introduce yourself through the look and feel of your content also sends a message that will stick around for a while. So here's an example. Check out this awesome training that I made.
Brown trout are one of the most genetically diverse vertebrates known. They have between 38 and 42 pairs of chromosomes. Humans only have 23 pairs, so they're better than us.
Okay, so what did you notice first? Did you notice the misspellings? Did you notice that those colors were really close together on the color wheels that were kind of hard to see? Did you catch the squished image? Did you notice that the training was about fish? Because I showed you this to teach you about fish, but perhaps the visual missteps were so overwhelming that it took away from that content. Now, let's say that I was a graphic design company, and that was the video that I showed you, the client, as a part of training. How comfortable in our company's talents would you be right now? Doesn't matter how good this content is, that's going to play a factor. So here's how I like to think about it. Like I said, content, audience, that's it. Every conversation you can possibly have about a course fits into one, if not both, of those topics. And if they don't, that course is probably going to fail. I see this with HR and compliance all the time, and this isn't to knock that content. What you guys do is very challenging, but sometimes there's a legal obligation to discuss certain things, and checking off those content boxes is literally all that matters. So what happens is you get a disengaged audience to just kind of click as fast as they can to get through it. I know I've done it, and I don't see any of the training. What I would love to do, I would love, and I don't know if you can even legally do it, to see a compliance training that acknowledged that we take the same thing probably every year and focused in on the new stuff early, so I'm instantly engaged in at least a part of it. Or at least called out, hey, you take this every year, this is new to you. It just acknowledges that, yes, there's content to get through, but there are needs of the audience that should be respected. Like I said, it's just an idea. I don't know if it's a good one, but that's kind of an example of how the two really kind of should blend together. So speaking of that, as a learner, the blending of content and audience do need to work together. They need to be harmonious, because if they're not, the ways that they aren't become the most heard part of the conversation, the most heard part of the training. As soon as you, the learner, catch on to the disconnect, that's when you start checking your phone, that's when you start checking your email, that's when you start just listening to me in the background. And even those few seconds of, wait a second, is that spelled correctly? Those are seconds that are taken away from the experience, and they will add up. When we're planning and developing content, we often think about, how do we draw learners in? How do we get their attention, we like to ask. But I'd like to suggest not just asking, how do you get someone's attention, but also being conscious of, how do you lose it? That's my favorite thing to talk about, because nobody really thinks about that. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm doing this. There are so many subconscious things that pull somebody away from a learning experience. And additionally, there are some things that enhance that experience that sound so minute and so petty that it just doesn't come up in the grand composition of training. It's just not something people talk about and think about all that much. And that is, a lot of that is in how you present the visuals, the production design, the squished images, and the colors being weird and fonts being off and all of that. You notice those. You spent some time noticing those. I didn't want you to spend time noticing those. So go back to my awful video. I really didn't want to point out all those visual miscues, and you probably didn't either, but you did, and that's the point. So stick around, because I want to dive into the composition, the symphony, and all of its glorious little parts. And don't worry, I'm not going to beat you down some weird life coaching funnel.
Hi there. My name's Joe. You might know me as the Training Millionaire. For only $99.95, I'll teach you all the secrets to using your instructional design power to become a millionaire overnight. So click buy now and come with me on this amazing journey. Corgis and Nutella. This could be your life.
No. But, let's look at the petty. Let's look at the minute. The little things that add up. I'm wondering if you noticed that I changed shirts just now. If you did that register before I said anything? Did you subconsciously ask, why did I change shirts? If you didn't notice, you were probably just listening to the video in the background, and that's okay. But if you just switch back to check, glad I got your attention. I've got about 15 seconds before I lose it again. So here are the takeaways. Number 1, a learner's ability to absorb content will never surpass their desire to view it. 2, training is a composition that blends content and audience. I don't know why I looked over there. 3, it's more complicated than, do I have content and does it fit my audience? 4, subconscious things as a learner can make or break the learning experience, so don't ignore them. Thinking about how you could lose someone's attention could be just as game-changing as how you gain it. And number 5, those are the things I want to cover in so much more detail, so please like, follow, share, find me on Facebook, search for Training is Blank, subscribe to my YouTube channel, reach out, let me know what you want to see and how I'm doing. This is the first time I've done anything like this. I am super excited to share all of my experience with production design and graphic design and video editing, and add that instructional design twist, because the rules are so much different when you are educating instead of just entertaining. So thank you so much for joining me on episode 1, and I will see you next time.